Many voices, one community. This is Vox Lorcana. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Vox Lorcana. My name is Scott, also known as Cypher 1000. I will be your driver this evening. Sitting to the east and coming to you from the Lone Star Studio, we have the wonderful and talented Daniel. Hello, Daniel.
Howdy, howdy.
And up to the north, broadcasting from Studio Pacifica, we have the talented and wonderful Rebekah. Hello, Rebekah.
Hi there.
We have a jam-packed show because apparently this weekend was Worlds.
Something happened.
Yeah, something happened.
Magical happened.
Actually. So much so that we don't really have time to waste here. We need to dive right in. Joining us tonight is a wonderfully special guest. He is a day 2 qualifier. He is a top 8 finisher. It is the one, the only, Mo Shamblin. Hello, Mo. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, super glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, to the day 2.
Today too, baby.
Yeah. So let's just dive right into that aspect. Okay. Day 1, you've dropped 2 games. You know in the back of your mind you don't have the flexibility to lose anymore. How do you pivot from there into your 5-0 backdoor sweep?
Yeah, so well, let's just say the nerves were high starting at the start that I did. I knew my strategy for constructed was sound. I felt like my strategy for sealed was sound, but it did not not necessarily my strategy, but my pool did not hold up in the first couple rounds. So round 3, there was a lot of pressure, but honestly, I just needed to see that I could win it. I lose the dice roll with snake eyes. Just totally like, oh no, it's over. And then we start playing, and I'm just having the answers for his cards, run him out of cards, and there's just a small glimmer where I'm like, maybe I'm still alive. Maybe the run's still alive. I went from planning, okay, if I lose this many times, I get a guaranteed Cinderella because of a bye, to, oh, the run's still going. Let's go. And I managed to get the 2-0 victory in that last game of Sealed. So I survived Sealed by the skin of my teeth.
Who were you playing in round 3?
Round 3 was one of my favorite European players, Wep or Michelle Azzarelli.
Yeah.
Second place with Green Purple at EU Continentals. He made one heck of a run that definitely inspired me for my NA Continentals. Y'all know I love that deck. But we played, and we were both talking about our pools, and we said we feel like our pools were the closest in power level than we've seen all day. So it was some nice games, but I managed to get that victory. May I tell you how my first round of Constructed started?
By all means.
Please.
All right. I'm playing against my lovely and beautiful friend Hamza Khan, and we were on the mirror match, which is green, purple, red, blue, amber, steel, but our decks were vastly different. I win the dice roll, and in my head, I know what I need to see. I pick red, blue, he picks green, purple. It's kind of funny. We're playing our opposite decks. I'm playing his deck, he's playing mine. I open and mulligan 5 cards. I send back 3 uninkables, so I feel pretty good. I get 5 uninkables on the return. On turn 3, after starting my day off 0-2, I was not able to ink against green purple, 2 cursed merfolk and a Diablo on his side of the board.
Oh wow.
0-1. And the morale was not high. So at that point, I have to 2-0 one of my best friends in the Lorcana community on his best deck, and I had to play a mirror match in one of those. Yeah. I managed to pull it off, but it definitely was a scary time. Just like right there was probably just like, oh no, my run's over. I win the dice roll, and then I open up and I have 5 uninkables in my hand with a Sail the Azurite Sea as my ramp.
Oh my goodness. Wild.
Absolutely.
So you both banned the amber steel that you
Yep.
guys brought. Was that something that you were like, were you trying to avoid steel? I know that there was a lot of talk in the community of players possibly going into the day, like banning steel all day, or were you kind of flexible, with each opponent, what the trio of decks that they brought? What was your strategy with the benching? Because that part was just fascinating to me.
Yeah, so I focused more on the deck I wanted to play against, more so than the deck I didn't. Steel was often my ban, but it's mostly because the steel decks did not align with the strategy I was bringing. I usually would not ban purple steel. I usually would not. I would ban green steel and amber steel most of the time, unless they were non-traditional lists. Like if someone was playing me with the steel deck I brought to Worlds, I'd probably let them play it. um, but yeah, I definitely came in with a generally going to ban any deck that can play Let the Storm Rage on turn 2 and go from there.
Fair.
So you go through your final 5 matches of the day. You go 5-0 in those. Who were the rest of your constructed opponents to complete that run?
Yeah, I met some wonderful new people. My round, what was that? Hamza was 4, so my round 5 opponent was you from Europe. I believe that's how he pronounces his name. I'm not, my memory's still a little fuzzy on the day.
Oh, you win. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you win? Yeah, he's from in Europe. I think he was in top 8 of the Continentals.
I believe he was. Very fun opponent, also on Mirror Match. He banned my red blue, so he was going for the different strategy. He was
Oh.
wanting to target down my aggro deck. Um, so it was one of the few times I got to play my amber steel deck, and boy, it was ready to go.
Yeah.
It managed to get the win on the when I played it on the play, and then my green purple is sort of my specialty, and it was my comfort pick on the draw all day. Um, the green purple deck I chose to bring. Sorry, I'm deviating a little bit from your question.
That's okay.
But the green purple deck I chose to bring was a discard deck that was kind of a throwback to my very first deck from DLC Vegas with the Ursula and the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo and all that, and it shined beautifully. I only got like 1 respect ban all day from Kurt, so I had to.
Yep. Round 7.
Yeah. I was surprised. I thought I would get more respect bans, but maybe it'll happen next year. Round 6 was against one of my favorite people in the Lorcana community. I love him. I love his entire team. I played against Sailor.
Nice.
And if you've not seen Luke and Sailor's deck for this tournament, Luke Wonderland, their decks for this tournament was absolutely terrifying to be in a mirror, not even a mirror match, but to play red blue against these decks because I knew they were targeting my red blue very hard. They brought a hyper aggro deck from purple yellow. They brought a very terrifying green steel deck.
Yes, indeed.
Whenever I was going into this event, standalone, absolutely standalone, not concerning decks with that's power level based on the decks you can play with it. But I had green steel being the most powerful deck you can bring into this event. It was in testing when you can see your opponent's deck list and you can choose play or draw depending if you won the dice roll or not. It was a guaranteed win when I could position it correctly. So I was very scared. Obviously, I banned the green steel deck, and that meant I had to play red blue into Sailor's red blue. Scary, scary round. I knew he was on 4 Hideaway, And Hideaway is a very powerful card in the items mirror, or just against my items-based red-blue strategy I brought. But the night before, I unfortunately for Sailor, oh sorry, Faye's having.
I hear.
The
So
night
cute.
before, I had really looked into Luke and Sailor's decks because their strategy I thought was very sound and powerful. I was thinking of constructively how to deal with the 4 Hideaway approaches, and my concept was to always punish him for playing them. So if I play a workshop, I immediately get value back on my workshop. I'll play a workshop and a popsicle in the same turn. And so if the workshop replaces itself and the Hideaway is starting to go almost -1 in card advantage. If it's -1, that means my card replaced itself already with its effect, and they played a card to go 1 for 1, but it ramps me. I could really pivot that into an aggressive value-based strategy in which I would try to get a bunch of lore with my little guys. I would try to get my Tipo, my Grant Metalas, and Scrooge McDucks to push my lore counter. And then while he was focused on dealing with my advantage generating stuff, I would use that to ramp me into things like Tamatoa 6-drop and just value out with popsicles for the rest of the game. That was my game plan going in. Worked out fantastically, and I managed to pull the mirror away. And then green purple was just absolutely brutal with the discards, and I think I had him stuck on 5 ink. But yeah, this was the beginning of the heartbreaker matches. Like when you're playing a friend and you're playing to stay in the tournament. Just I hated us being in that position. I love Sailor. He's such a good guy.
Yeah, so you mentioned that. I know it was Kurt following that.
Yep.
And then in the words of Eric Schweitzer, he had tweeted out, your first round opponent on day 2 ends up being Zach Bivens. And his words were, Zach versus Mo in the top 8 is the heartbreak of the century, for which I concur. Just that was basically the one match I didn't want to see at all. And of course, we're gifted with that very thing.
I wanted it to be the finals.
Right?
Right.
Yes.
Wait, I want to go back though real quick to Kurt's your round 7 on day 1 with Kurt, because I have I was making notes on note cards all day of all the matches as we were watching and everything, and I didn't write like a lot of notes on this one, but this is what game 1 I wrote double daisy +1 because he had 3 daisies out at one point. And then on game 2, I wrote down Sisu with lots of exclamations. And then I wrote Sisu again.
So those matchups, I love that they were streamed because like it just really puts you in position to play to your win conditions and not your hand, which I think is one of my strongest aspects as a player, which some people refer that to being very lucky and top decking like a god. I don't know, whichever you prefer. But I expected to go into that round. I knew that Churna Dogs was one of the few aggro decks that could beat my aggro deck on the draw.
Yeah.
And luckily, he didn't get there. He couldn't find the removal card he needed, the Tramp Enterprising Dog, and I was able to take that round. We would have had a little bit of a scrap if he did find it. I don't think it would have been, it was not full send either way. And then, but I went into this expecting to lose to the Churna Dogs, and I was just going to 2-0 his blue-red shark deck. I felt very comfortable 2-0ing that deck with any 3 of my decks going into the event. And then somewhere after the first Sisu I drew in game 2, I was like, maybe I can 2-0 the deck I feel like I don't have a great matchup into. It was wild.
Those are wild top decks.
Yeah.
Sure, top decks perhaps involve some luck, but what I think people discount when they say that's luck is all of the decisions that you have to make successfully to put yourself in the position to capitalize on the top decks if you get them.
Absolutely.
It's not just the draw itself, it's the situational management leading up to it.
And put yourself into my shoes. I'm staring down 2 or 3 Daisy Ducks to a double Piglet opener, which is just like the biggest gas, and Tramp on Curve. There's no world you win that unless you play to your outs.
Right, exactly.
I played to mine. and was able to come away with it with the win. I knew I would not get anything for free against Kurt. Kurt's an amazing player and a great person. Super fun. One of my most fun games to play. I love to yap, and he loves to yap with me, and I love players who will talk with me on the mic. But um,
Yeah,
yeah,
he got up to 18 in that game.
yeah, I got him stuck at 18. It's the feels bad games against Red
Uh,
Blue.
One of the questions that that I often get, and I don't specifically know the answer to, when you've got those headsets on during your matches, what are you hearing? What are they playing into those?
So have you ever been to a waterfall, like where you can go like behind it?
Yes,
It's that.
gotcha.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
wow.
super. When we played Pack Rush, I put them on and I was like, oh no, if we don't need those on, no thanks. It's like super, super duper loud white noise because they want to block out the sound that's going on. Otherwise they would hear Baker scream and be prepared in the other room.
Yeah. It
Mhm.
was like it's just like crazy loud white noise, and it works very well. It very well.
And then you can talk to each other and also the judges, I believe.
Yeah, the judges can talk. Yeah, we can talk to the judges, and they, if we miss lore, I'm really terrible about remembering my lore on the iPad because I'm so like zoned into the game. They'll ring you in your ear and let you know, hey, can you update the iPad?
What process did you and your team go through to arrive at your deck lists that you took into constructed?
You ever heard of Around the World in 80 Days? I played every color combination. We started here. This is obviously, I have an advantage because I play green purple, which is what
Mhm.
largely everyone thinks is the worst of these three decks. I disagree vehemently, but I play green purple, and so if anyone ever gives me a respect ban, always like ban the deck, not the player. But if anyone gives me that respect ban, I can always capitalize on it. But yeah, I played everything. I tested different decks. I was playing everything from Oswald Blue Green to Ruby Steel, Strength Matters, Challenge
Mm.
deck. Blue Yellow, I was particularly fond of, and almost was sold on a ban red strategy and play Blue Yellow.
Hmm.
I there's just so many different combinations. I tested Christmas for game on game on game, just to determine if these decks are like valid strategies to bring in. And then you run into strategies that you deem valid, like red yellow, very similar deck to the aggressive deck that I played against in top eight. And I play against this deck, and I tell myself there's 100% a world that this deck can be a viable choice, but I feel like this choice is just gives me more room and better.
Mm.
Because you have certain decks, and the format is fascinating, and it makes me so sad that it's kind of unreasonable to play at a local level just because of the price of the decks. It's crazy, like to have three decks, you know. But I there's so much thought that goes into the strategy you bring, and there's certain like enabling colors, like blue yellow enables you to play different combinations because it frees up your blue, or playing a red deck that's not red blue or red purple. My entire strategy walking into this tournament was to abuse red blue and red purple. And if you bring out a different red deck like red yellow, it opens up a world where I have to flop my strategy to a different thing, like I had to do in top eight.
Yeah,
And
I was just gonna ask about that because that is what you faced in top eight.
yeah. So yeah, we'll finish talking about the day because I kind of got off on a tangent there. Top eight, Bivens' decks. It, let me say this: going in and looking at it, I knew he was my only bad matchup into top eight. I felt very comfortable into
Mm.
once again the decks, not the players. But I felt very comfortable against every other lineup, including the other blue green deck that was in
Mm.
Top Cut, because I could just target the red purple and my strategy was the same. But Bivens is the one who made that red yellow work. And I knew I was going to be on the draw, and I had to take my chances against one bad matchup. I could either stop his aggro deck on the draw, or I could run the risk and play against the blue-green and try to sneak a win, and then get a win with red-blue on the draw. Neither was particularly appealing thoughts because Zach Bivens is the purple steel player, and I would have to give him his comfort deck. So I positioned to try to get the 2-0 into purple steel. And I felt comfortable relying on my green purple to get the win on the draw. And it was very close games. That's some of the best Lorcana I think I've ever played. And I'm so glad it was caught on camera. It was a beautiful match. Beautiful match.
They were absolutely fun games to watch.
I'm not going to lie, for game 3 on the last few points, I had to leave.
Yeah, Scott
Yeah,
walked out.
I was too nervous. I literally couldn't watch. Because I'd said before, no matter what, I'm going to be crying, and half of it's going to be tears of sorrow, and half is going to be tears of joy. And I was not prepared for that to end. A valiant fight, possibly the longest match of top 8, including finals.
Yeah. I wasn't, like, he banned my aggro strategy, and so we had some pretty grindy matchups, even against his aggro strategy. Like, my whole plan was to slow him down and continue pushing my clock to try to get the win. Like, aggressively pushing my clock into whatever he was doing to hopefully make him turn away from his strategy. But did y'all see that top deck Gloyd Orange Boar?
Yes. Which is also just a really fun card to say, Gloyd Orange Boar. But that top deck was kind of crazy on that first game.
I told him as we sat down that I'm one of the few people in the room that probably knows who Gloyd Orange Boar is in terms of Lorcana. And right before he drew it, I tell him, because I had almost stabilized. I had a removal in my hand. I had the board, and he was top decking. He needed 1 lore. And I said, Zach Bivens, don't you dare.
Don't you dare draw that Gloyd Orange Boar.
He did. It was hilarious.
I may or may not be guilty of playing a Razor's deck just so I can say their names.
They are the most fun to say.
Yeah, it was a hilarious end to that game.
Any what's kind of your overriding takeaway from the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, so just the whole weekend, it was just a magical experience. I've never been to Disney World. I've been to Disneyland for the first time with my family in January. And being able to go to Disney World, being able to take my baby girl to the parks, the games, even when I was 0-2, even when I was bricking against Hamza, playing heartbreaker after heartbreaker in these must-win situations, I felt like I was among family. Like, I just love these guys. I've grown so close with everyone, my competitors, my friends, just everyone. Like, since DLC Vegas, my life has changed so tremendously because of this game. And it just makes me so very happy to be there. I feel so blessed to be a part of it. I suppose that's my biggest takeaway from the weekend.
Well, you are a gem in the Disney Lorcana community, both you and Mandy and Faye. It was wonderful seeing your whole family there, and I'm so glad that you experienced so much magic.
Thank you. It was a beautiful weekend.
Mo, we appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. We look forward to seeing further success from you down the road, and you have a wonderful evening.
Hey, all of y'all as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mo.
Bye.
Thanks, Mo.
Mo's the best.
Yeah, when
great.
It was such a brutal moment when we saw that bracket come out, and I was like, oh,
I think we all did. There was a collective groan in the Disney Lorcana community shaking our fists in the air. Why?
Yep. Okay, Rebekah, you were there, right?
I was there.
Yeah.
I was there. Honored.
Are you still mentally
Yes,
there?
I mean, I said something to some people today where I'm like, I don't know that I will ever stop having something new to say. I still feel like I'm processing. I'm also still exhausted. I still haven't fully recovered my voice back from screaming on Tron and whatever in the parks. But it was, I mean, talk about Disney magic. It was that and so much more in so many ways. And the team of broadcasters that I was with, of course, we wanted the whole community to be there. And I'm so still so sad. It's tragic. It is tragic that the whole community couldn't be there, but I could not have asked for four other better people to be spending the weekend with. Liam, Brandon, B Squared, Baker, all the way from London, and JD, who I'm so glad I got to meet those guys. I've been wanting to meet Baker forever. And yeah, we watched a lot of great matches and had a lot of fun. It was an incredible weekend. I cried a lot too.
You were not the only one. I think there were several people that were. What so kind of take us behind the scenes just a little bit. What was the atmosphere like? What was it awkward not having a larger crowd? Because this is the smallest, I believe, amount of
is.
people in the room.
Yep, 28 players. That's it. And besides that, you really just had the judges and the event staff and us and the folks from Ravensburger. So it was a small crew for sure. But if you had asked me before Worlds, what do you think the atmosphere is going to be like? I would have said it's going to be like super tense, like you could cut it with the air with a knife kind of feeling. But kind of like what Mo was talking about, it was these players are friends and the community was still together. It was not the entire community at large, but um, it was sure there were a lot of tense moments and people feeling the grind as the day went on and all of that. But I think that there was still an overall air of excitement and the togetherness of the community while we were there. I mean, I wasn't in the room where some of the players were towards the end of the day because we were backstage with the broadcast team and, we're goofing around and having fun. So, so the atmosphere where we were was probably a little different, but overall, it was still and there was, everyone's guests who were there and some community members who are local to Orlando that kind of came into the lobby to watch. They had some television set up so that people could watch the games, watch the stream and everything. And so people are chatting and getting excited about watching the games in the lobby and everything. So, you know, you both have been to some of the other Disney Lorcana challenges, so I feel like it was really still a similar feeling, but just at a very small scale. So hopefully that's the last time there's a Disney Lorcana event that small, though.
Right. Yeah. Matt's got it right. Hopefully, we will all be there the next time, and I think we will.
So. Yeah, I don't think that they didn't want it to be a large celebration. I just think that due to several things going on, it couldn't happen this time. And I think that if they could have made it happen, they would have. But what they did put on, especially for those 28 players for this first season of Lorcana, I think they did a really good job of putting together a wonderful experience. And I will say from my side, as the casting team, we were treated very well. The production company that we were working with was fantastic, and they took very good care of us so that we could be at our best to bring the excitement and the thrill of the games happening to the community at large through the broadcast. And I think that was also really great that we all felt really comfortable with what we were doing. And, honestly, we just all vibed so well together. And Liam made this wonderful analogy today, and I hope that he doesn't mind me sharing this because this was a conversation with just the two of us. And he said, what I think is great is that, we each, all five of us, have, our different quality that we bring, our own personality. But because of the way we did the rotating through of the pairings, you always saw, a different pairing. It's like we're all different colors. So if one person's red and the other person's yellow, then when they get together, it's orange. But when the yellow person gets together with the blue person, then it makes a green. And so you kind of had this whole like rainbow and all these different, each pairing kind of brought out something different from the other person. And I think it brought a lot of excitement. And you'll have to tell me, you two, when Scott and Daniel, when you share your experience, but it kind of felt like each different pairing and kind of brought out something different and something exciting to keep the stream fresh all weekend long.
So I'll talk about that more later on. I will say, yes, it definitely did. Unfortunately, we didn't get to hear as much of day one just because of the logistics of the store. So it was difficult to judge much from there. But day two, the personalities of the combined pairings definitely started to show. Speaking of personality, is Baker as delightful in person as he comes across online?
1,000%. Yes, he is quite delightful. I am so glad that he was able to be a part of the team. It was a joy working with him for sure. I got to spend a lot of time with him in the park on Monday too in Magic Kingdom. He's like, Rebekah, you're my tour guide. Okay.
Your Tron photo is one of my favorites.
Oh my goodness gracious. That was hilarious.
That was your first time to ride Tron.
Yes,
right?
It was my very first time. I didn't know what to expect, as you can tell.
I'll have to look. Is that up on Instagram?
No, I think it's just on Twitter. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to look it up there. The one photo I did see is you coming out of the tiki room.
You guys, listen. Florida air is so dumb.
Amen.
I'm like,
Amen.
what even is this? I could not, my body did not know how to handle the humidity. And I was actually cracking up today with my husband because I had to go drop off Caleb for something. And I was walking outside, to the car. And I kind of had this moment where I just stood there and I was like, wow, it feels so nice right now, much nicer than Florida. And I looked at how hot it was, and it's 95 degrees here today. And I'm like, this feels so much nicer to me than being 80 degrees and whatever humidity in Florida, in Orlando. So that's some wacky weather going on out there. I do not understand it, but I enjoyed the Dole Whip in the tiki room. Mm-hmm. That was perfect. But yeah, Florida weather is something else.
I'd been to Walt Disney World when I was 9. And so when you're 9, you're impervious to elements and everything, right? So I don't have a great recollection of it there. My first time going into Florida after that, it was about 3-4 years ago for work. I'm going to the Fort Lauderdale airport. I step off the jet into the jetway, and it's just a wall. Like it's just a giant humid wall. It's like, bleh, bleh, what is this?
Yeah, the air is dumb, like I said.
And then I go to the ocean, and I like my only recollection of ocean is Pacific Ocean, and you get this nice cool breeze. Even in the summer, there's a cool ocean breeze coming off. And so I get to the ocean thinking that I'm going to be able to cool off, and it's 9:30, 10 at night out there in December, mind you. And it's still like 85. It's just gross. And I'm like, what is wrong with your ocean? Is it broken, sir? It's broken.
It's broken. That is definitely how I felt about it. I think there were a couple other people that I was hanging out with in the park on Monday that were probably laughing at how I was handling it or not handling it very well. I came prepared. Like I had my little fan, my handheld fan. I had an umbrella, but yeah, even when I arrived on Thursday in Orlando, My plane landed at 4:00, and I had a ticket for Epcot for an after hours event that I could get into the park at 7 and stay until 1 a.m. And that was a much better experience, actually, to not be in the sun, And so, if I could go to Walt Disney World parks at night all the time, then I
Yeah.
might go back. Also,
Rebecca.
you guys have both been to Disney World, yes? So, and
Like
Epcot.
almost 40 years ago, but yes.
Oh, okay, okay. So
I mean,
Epcot,
Eastern
though,
Airlines was still around. So
there's some people maybe who are listening who have already heard this story, but I did not know. I did not know, and I went on Mission Space on the orange
Oh.
side, and I thought I was gonna die. I was like, "What is happening? Oh man!"
you have to fill
No.
me in. What does that mean?
It's a flight simulator for astronauts.
Okay.
And so you are like put into a tiny metal box and then spun around like crazy and
0
with like
G's. Yeah.
yeah, and like I think I looked it up online and that there's like a sustained like 2 to 2.5 G's force on your body for like 15 seconds, which doesn't sound like a long time, but most roller coasters it's like that many G forces for like a couple seconds, maybe 5 seconds max. So yeah, see somebody's in the chat going, I will never go on Mission Space. Don't. I cannot recommend it. It was, yeah.
0 stars.
Green. Yeah. So green, I didn't know that green was the way to go. Green, they don't spin you around, I guess. But all they said, the cast members, when I got in line was orange is more intense, but they don't say more intense than what. That's so subjective.
But Rebecca, that is the only ride where they have signs everywhere. And then right
Okay.
before you get on the ride, they say you have one final chance to opt out. And I thought that was just part of like the ambiance.
Yes.
Of it.
Yeah, I did
Um,
too. You know what's really funny, Daniel, is they have a lot of signs and there's a lot of words on the signs. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of words. I'm going to take a picture. And so I took a picture of the sign, but I didn't actually read it. So, but other than that, that was my first trip ever to Walt Disney World. Got to see Spaceship Earth there at Epcot. Got to see the castle, which is definitely much bigger than Disneyland. And most importantly, like I got to spend the day with my friends, and we were all just big kids laughing and having so much fun around the parks. Minus the humidity, that it was a wonderful day.
That's great. Rebecca, there's something you said earlier that I wanted to go back to because I think it's part of the experience that, more behind the scenes. You talked about the production team, and I assume it was a different team than you worked with in the past for the other DLCs, but it helped you all be at your best. I'm kind of curious, like, what was it about that? I mean, again, this is I think this was your fifth time casting. I can't remember. I've lost track.
This will be my 8th time, I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I did Atlanta remote, so I wasn't there in person, but I
That's
did
right.
all 6 DLCs plus the North American Championship, and then Worlds will be number 8, which when you say it like when I say 8, that is kind of wild to think about. They were a great crew, and just the people that they had were super kind to work with and really professional. I wouldn't say like more professional than the other teams that we've worked with, but I don't know. I think between the 5 of us and how we all got along, and then just the people that we worked with, it just kind of flowed really well. And I'm not sure what it was in the air. Not to say that none of us were nervous, because I think we were all very nervous. But I'm a theater kid, right? Or even a theater adult, right? I have, that's my background, is performing in theater. You're always going to have some amount of nerves, and that's healthy and good, actually. Like if you don't feel nervous, then maybe. But there wasn't like any kind of like stress, like negative stress feeling. And like even things like they had a bag for me on the tape. I like had complained at one moment that I was having problems with static with my skirt. And then the next thing I know, there's a bag on the table and they're like, hey, we just have like some things in here if you need, like cotton swabs, and Q-tips and makeup remover and makeup brushes and hairspray and just like different things, And it was like, oh, wow, like, thank you. Like,
That's
just
awesome.
having things there for us when we needed. And both times I went into the booth, I like forgot to bring a pen with me, and I was like motioning for a pen, and they like ran and brought me one. So I think they're not, the team that we have worked with before has been incredible, and I love all of them so much. But this team, I don't know, it just definitely was different behind the scenes. It felt like, and also I don't know if you noticed, but we were standing in the booth. Everyone was standing on camera. And I think there was something about that that brought a different level of energy to the cast. And I loved it. And I love when I've watched back some of the matches with the others. I hope we always do that, because that, I think, just that small change. And sometimes that's how it is. It's like the tiniest little smallest changes and tweaks can make a really big difference in how something comes across. So yeah, I think it was one of the best casts that we've been able to deliver, and I'm excited to see where things go from here. And hopefully I will be able to be a part of them.
Thanks for sharing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I hope so too. It's just the beginning.
Yeah. So this is actually, I think, a great thing to end on. And then I want to hear about your all experience watching it. It's just beginning. That is a lyric from the song Happily Ever After, that is played during the Happily Ever After lyrics. In the chorus, they say it's just beginning, feel your heartbeat faster, reach out and find your happily ever after. And unfortunately, JD wasn't able to stay for the fireworks, but the other four casters, or the other four of us on the team, watched the Happily Ever After fireworks. I was bawling. And I feel like that was just, if you know that song or if you've seen that fireworks show, that moment is a moment that I will not forget for the rest of my entire life. This entire journey of choosing, almost 2 years ago to start an Instagram account to talk about this fun Disney game. And every day since then, leading up to here, casting Worlds for the first ever championship with these people, and to end on that note of that fireworks show was just so overwhelming and beautiful. And I'm going to start crying again. Because I feel like all of us kind of felt that in that moment of like this journey that each of us has been on as individuals and also as a group. To arrive here at this point of being a part of what I would consider a historic event in Disney Lorcana. I hope that this game is around for 20 or 30 years and longer, decades to come. And this, to be a part of this moment that people will always look back at the first, and that we were so privileged to be a part of that. And yeah, anyway, I think it was I realized how much bigger it was than I thought in that moment. And it was really special.
There's Pentatonics, the vocal group.
Yeah.
They're a cappella. They end up winning Sing Off season 3. They did a cover of Lord Royals, and they end with the line, "We're bigger than we ever dreamed." And the way they sing it, I feel like they're literally saying that. Like they had no idea at the start of the journey that that's where they'd be. And I feel like the same is probably for you, or true for you and Liam and the rest of the casters, that, 2.5 years ago, when you first hear of this game, or a year to year and a half ago, and you first buy your product, make your first Instagram reel, this image wasn't in mind at that,
Yeah.
but here you are.
Yeah.
Daniel, as you look back on the weekend, what do you remember? Not just about the Enchanted Memories event, but about Worlds as a whole. What sticks out to you?
Oh, what a tough question. I mean, I'm going to preface it by I was actually on a work trip at Disney World the weekend before, right? And so, literally, Rebekah, as you were describing that moment, literally 2 weeks ago, so on the 18th, Wednesday evening, I am standing in front of the castle watching Happily Ever After, right? In that moment, those exact same lyrics, and I'm bawling, right? Because for a lot of emotional reasons, right? Knowing that I wasn't going to be there, right, with all of you, but just sending those vibes and that energy, knowing that you all would be at some point in time in the next 10 days standing in the exact same spot. I think the thing I remember and take away is just it had been some time for me since I had been at a gathering, right? Lily and I really had hoped to be at North America Championships. We missed that. And so the last time I had been together with the Lorcana community at large was DLC Seattle. That was October. That was so long ago.
So long.
And so, and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit, but I mean, part of, I think for myself, planning and just doing the crazy thing to attempt to plan an event in less than a month, was sort of my cathartic release of wishing something into existence. And so it was more than I could have ever imagined. And it would not have been possible, right, without the Limiteers. I mean, Rebekah, thank you for being a sponsor, right? It would not have been possible without you. And so you, Liam, Aaron were all there in spirit because, the weekend would not have happened. Scott was there in person. And again, the event would not have gone as smooth without him and all his wonderful event experience of just like, what do you need? Okay, cool. I'm going to go do it. So I think that's the takeaway, right? Is that it was the reminder I needed that when we're together, there's something special here, and it's really unique. And what was so cool was it was the first time for my partner to actually see that, right? Because Lily and I've traveled, and my partners have never been able to be part of that experience, and she got to see, I think, a taste of the why. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you put that event on. I wish I could have been there, but also,
you were there. You were really big. You were like,
that's true.
Larger than life.
Larger than life.
I am ever and eternally grateful for Daniel and the really all those that came together to pull that off. I can honestly say that with very rare exception, it didn't occur to me that I wasn't in Florida watching in person. And thank goodness for that. It was the first time. Well, there's a number of things that made it special. It was the first time that I got to see Daniel ever. We've been doing this show for over a year, closer to a year and a half at this point, conspiring for longer than that. First time we actually got to meet in person, which was tremendous. Got to meet him, got to meet the world famous Lily, witness her drawing with Brian, which was an incredible scene. Brian Weiss, the illustrator there.
That's very cool.
That dude just drips with talent, by the way.
Yeah.
His portfolio that we didn't see everything, but what we did see is just ridiculously good. but getting to be able to sit down and play a game of Lorcana with Lily, her Lily Fasa against mine. That was a joy. That had been something I was hoping I'd be able to do. She didn't care about it, which is fine. Like I get it. But that was definitely special for me. Being able to enjoy an event like this with my wife. Not just a game, but the event and the overall experience was a thrill. Being able to have breakfast with her and Brian on, I think it was Sunday morning before the Enchanted Memories event itself was incredible. I always say that if you're at a convention and you get to actually share a meal with someone, that's like infinite hours of time. That's such a rare experience. So to be able to have that was incredible. And then we got that with Daniel afterwards, which was awesome. So it's I remember less about the event itself and just am grateful and have more memories about who I spent it with. The name of the event was Enchanted Memories. That's exactly what it was. It wasn't specifically about watching worlds. It was about spending it with people in the community that we care about and with part of the community that cared enough to spend their time, spend their money, spend their sleep, exchanging sleep for work, saying, yes, we're going to pull this off. And he did. And that's what sticks out to me. On Sunday, we, of course, we're at the Long Center at the Black Box Theater there, and with that we had a ginormous projection TV, sound, audio in there was great. So everybody was coming through, so we could finally get to really pay attention, at least while we weren't working, right? Like that was another part of the problem. We couldn't pay as much of attention because sometimes we're just busy doing stuff. The first match that I think we got to see on the screen was Mo Bivens, correct?
Yep, it was. Yeah, I'm so glad we were. We planned the event to start originally around, I think what was supposed to be the break and watching the casters play. That felt like a good transition point to bring everyone in, I think. We got to catch, I think, almost the entirety. Actually, yeah, we did get to catch the entirety of that matchup. So
yeah. So we start off with a tearjerker, and then we just go with the rest of the incredible competition. Of course, it leads into Ed and DKP playing in the finals.
Wait, before what I have to know,
Yeah.
What was everyone's reaction to the 12-minute semifinals with Ed versus Luca?
My recollection is that they were too busy eating to know that the match had already started and ended.
And ended, right?
Like they couldn't have a reaction
Double
because
take.
it went too fast.
yeah,
It was wild.
I walked out because I think I was checking on something, registration or something, and that was outside of the space. So I think I walk out, and when I walk back in, the game was over. I mean,
Yep. Yeah.
Man,
That
wild.
and so you get that right, and then you get the finals where they play 5 games within about 50 minutes. And people have said one of the reasons that you don't want to do a 3-game format is because it takes too long and too many matches go to time. And I'm like, look, I get that they're 2 of the best players, and currently they are the 2 best players in the world. They've got countless reps preparing for this event, so yes, they're going to play a little bit faster, more than likely, or at least they're prepared to do that. But if they can play 5 in 50 minutes, we can play 3 in 60.
Yes.
like I don't want to hear any of this. It's too like no. You play faster. Just play faster. Learn to play faster. Simple as that.
Simple as that.
But yeah, the speed was definitely a takeaway. Like compared to what we've seen in tournaments leading up to this, where take I think it was Chicago, the set 2 meta, where it's just Ruby Am Mirror after Ruby Am Mirror, and what just a slog some of those were. And then this is just easy breezy cover girl fast, like just gone, light speed, right?
Yeah.
Just a crazy comparison to look at where we've come from versus how this specific, because if it was single deck versus triple deck, I don't think we have that. I think it's a different situation.
Oh, 100,000%. Yeah. It's like this world's triple deck format was its own little mini meta, that
Right.
happened. And I think that because of that, it allowed for decks that you wouldn't see in normal constructed events. And I think that also just made it more interesting to watch, more of a variety, but it made it fast. I think there was a lot more aggro decks.
Yep.
Right? So, yeah, Cole just said that there's a lot more aggro decks rather than seeing all those long, arduous mirror matches.
Daniel, what's something? I mean, I know you were in and out from where you could pay attention or not. Is there anything that you remember from the cast itself that really sticks out to you?
I mean, I think there's a few pieces that really were just fun. I mean, Rebekah, you all as the casters, and again, I don't know if it's just because the setup of the space, right? I mean, just the screen was certainly the goal, right? To have it was like being in a movie theater.
Mhm.
And so I think just you said something right about just the standing. I don't think I realized that, right? But
Right.
the energy, and I think the thing that just comes across differently than sitting at your desk or on a couch watching a Twitch stream is the transition points. I think that's the other part that really stood out to me, because it's when I watched the crowd just laughing, right? Was there were these incredible transitions and montages, right, of the players having to draw a card, which was a great, homage.
That
Shout
was
out
so
to Katie,
fantastic.
Lorkeeper's in.
Mhm.
And I think, you sort of, there's these subtle tweaks, like you said, that you don't realize, oh, like what we used to have was, a animation of, like, I guess kind of like the luminary and some classical music in the background, right? Or something. And just the way that the space and time was filled, it was wonderful. I mean, I was actually, I struggled to find the breaks between rounds to do our raffle giveaways and stuff, because I was assuming there would be a lot more of that kind of
Like
break, especially
downtime. Yeah.
downtime, especially when a game went fast, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna like get that downtime in, and again, I think there was just an entertainment value that was very premium. And so I really remember that. And I'm so, again, those were some of those moments that as I'm standing there watching everyone enjoying and laughing, I mean, even, the kids that were there, they could laugh at, the silly, card sketches that that players
Mhm.
were doing. There was something about that we couldn't even have planned for. Right. And those are really memorable moments.
Yeah, the first one that sticks out is when the casters were playing. It was Liam versus Rebekah. I remember that, and the volume was down.
So fun.
So I don't necessarily know who won, but I think by the body language, if I was reading it right, Baker kind of waved Rebekah away and then
That he
stared
did.
down Liam. So I'm thinking that Rebekah lost that. But just his, from my perspective, was pantomime. But bringing that little bit of theater and fun was just really stuck in my mind.
Flair.
Yeah,
So much flair.
and then of course all of his vocalizations and singing and the be prepared and all that kind of stuff. But like I continue to hear that in my head, which was fun. Definitely different from the North American cast we'd heard before. And the other bit was, as Brandon and JDZ were streaming the final match, it just came across to me that they were having fun.
Mm.
they were, I don't know if they felt it, but to me, I felt like they were just relaxed. They were going with it. They were as surprised as we were about how fast these two players were just blazing through 5 games of Lorcana. But that's kind of what stuck with me, and kind of goes to your point of, that was the first time that I'd gotten to hear that particular pairing cast with one another, and how each pair brings a different chemistry to the cast, and I love the variety. I love what you each bring to the table. I hope to see you all more, and I hope that they continue to expand the roster. I wanted to
Me
continue
too.
to see and hear more voices.
Yeah. As that's, I think, really important, Scott. There are so many wonderful voices in this community, and a lot of them casting different community events around the country. And absolutely, we want to expand the team, and I would love to have more female voices. Particularly, that would be the thing for me. I am the first female caster for Disney Lorcana, but I want it to be the first of many.
Right.
And I hope that we see, and beyond that, to beyond just having more women. There are so many incredible people in this community who could bring something really special to the stream, and I think that all of us on the team want to leave the door open, behind us. We know that we're not holding to like that tightly. Of course, we all want to keep doing it, but we also want to pave the way for other people.
Right. Nope, fully agree. We are coming to the end of the hour, but there's still more to discuss. So if either or both of you need to drop, feel free. I get it. But one way or another, I need to get to some of the announcements that were made.
Side note: one way or another is the song that I heard on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Nice.
So it was fantastic.
So over the weekend, they on Saturday, all they announced is that there was going to be 16 DLCs or 16 events, which ended up being ultimately not true. There was more than that, if I'm not mistaken. I think the number was 18. But they didn't give us too many details. Honestly, it doesn't surprise me. I wasn't expecting anything more on Saturday. If you have big announcements, it's you don't typically do all of that on day one. When we get to it, of course, they give the 3 DLCs in the UK. We get that information first, and the obvious omission is the UK is not getting a DLC, which kind of, I think, took some people by surprise. Then a little bit later, they give the rest of the rundown and show the good part. In my mind, the part that I was thrilled to see is that Brazil's getting events, and China's getting events, and Southeast Asia's getting events, and Japan's getting events. Really, literally expanding across the globe, which is phenomenal. Broaden out the Disney Lorcana family. But I don't live in those places. I live in North America. I live in the United States.
You live in the western part of the United States.
Yeah, the western part. Yes, good point. The western part, which is not getting a DLC. In fact, the continent is getting them halved, and there's only 3, not just in North America, but 3 in the States as well. There was a attendee that in the black box theater, as we see the slide on the screen. I'm not sure who this person is, but he's looking back at me with bewilderment. And that's really the word that sticks out to me, saying, so there's going to be more later, right? And I'm like, I don't know. I can't imagine that this is it. And then even Daniel and I are having that same basic conversation. Like, there's got to, like, before the finals, they're going to give us the rest of the stuff, right? Like there's that's not it. And then it was it. And what started as bewilderment kind of leaves us all like, well, that went over like a wet fart. The the news was not especially well received. We go into Discord server after Discord server, and the community is crashing out. I didn't see any of the chat. Daniel made a fantastic decision to hide that intentionally. That was the right decision. I'm glad he did. I have to imagine Twitch chat was not keen on it. I know the powers that be, Rochelle and others, were in Discord, on the official Discord for Ravensburger Disney Lorcana, trying to address some of the concerns as best they could, at least initially. I know they've said we're going to get some of those additional concerns addressed tomorrow during their weekly Lorecast. But wow, what a disappointment. And not just disappointment. They had initially said, I believe it was August 26th through 28th was going to be national championship. Now on the website, it's been updated to September
TBD or something, right?
Yeah. So how that changes in the course of a day? Like, what is going on? I was floored. I don't understand it. I actually don't have a problem with Milwaukee in October. Richmond in January does not seem optimal. And then Indianapolis, which is pretty close geographically to Milwaukee, I mean, relatively speaking, in June is not going to be fun weather-wise, but yeah, those are your three: Indianapolis in June, Milwaukee in October, Richmond, Virginia in January, and then somewhere a North American or a national championship. What were your takeaways as you got that information? Where are you at mentally with all of that?
I mean, Scott, I remember when that person, said that. I think I immediately, I was almost like very matter of fact, right? I was like, oh no, they're going to announce more later. That's just the first three, right? They're spacing it out. I know the community has so many thoughts on this. I think where my headspace is, and I think, Scott, I've always appreciated your perspective coming from decades of other card games and the numerous conversations that we've had that help someone who is newer to the TCG space just better understand the business of TCGs.
Yep.
And so I think the way I've processed the news has, I don't know that I fully processed the news, right? Because what was revealed was, number one, disappointing. Let's just start from the first piece, which is, reflection of myself and, okay, can I see myself making these events? And I'll be honest, right? The immediate next feeling I had was the trauma of trying to grab a ticket for any of these events. And I, there were just a lot of those feelings. And I think in the moment, with running around, because of how fast Ed was playing, I wasn't even sure our catering was going to arrive in time before the games were all over.
Yep.
And so I think that was really truly like the raw in the moment, what was going through my head. But going back to the piece of what I've learned from you around the business of TCGs, there is a global market that I think, let's call it, most of us in North America don't fully appreciate. And, unless you watched, right, the Grand Prix in China and Japan, the production, the scale, the quality of what they've created, and hearing about I can't speak to the scale and size, but the content creators that I follow in China, and I think, Jonathan Lamb, Lamb Chops got to experience this when he went over there. I mean, there are testing groups that are playing together in Shanghai like every single night. And I know that happens in the US as well. But I think there's this is something that I spoke with someone else on their podcast about a little bit, is there's a whole nother, I think, level of TCG fandom or fanaticism, that I think even, um it's just it's a different level. And
Yep.
so I think I start with that and go from a business of TCG standpoint, growing the global market. um I think the thing that's hard to swallow is, if you're going to grow the global market, why does it have to come at the expense, right,
Yes.
of EU and North
Yeah.
America? And so I think that's the part. There's, again, some of this goes back to what I think about from a communication standpoint of when you communicate, and trust, right, which is something that has been a struggle for the community. Trust relies on authenticity, logic, and empathy. And I think, the as the announcements were rolling out about best of three, right, being brought back, and I think the community was feeling in those moments validation, right? There was a sense
Mhm.
of empathy. You've heard us, right? We the two-game format, was not what well, hearing about 2 days longer rounds, right? The community was feeling like heard, and so you had this roller coaster of emotions of like, okay, wow, like the drip, we're being heard. There's a sense of empathy,
Mhm.
and then I think there was this logic wobble, right? So
Yep.
in the trust triangle kind of framework, it's like, what, right? And so I think that's the part that the community is really struggling with, is the trust isn't there because there's a logic gap. And again, this is Wednesday. Tomorrow, in 12 hours, we're going to have a lorecast, and we might get a little bit more. And again, quests with Cole, right? Sharing pastimes, running events, right? Again, so I think there's been some comments about kind of the key markets areas that Pastime, as a tournament organizer, probably has a connection and space to. And again, I think all that feels really missing again is just like, what was the logic behind this? And I think if the community heard the logic, it doesn't solve it for everyone, but I think for some of us, it would help us understand a little bit more about the roadmap. So that's my take.
Sure. Sure.
I saw
Rebekah, go ahead.
yeah. Um, Real quick on what you were saying, Daniel. I heard somebody say this analogy where they said, I'm sure there's many, many layers to this, like an onion, or they said, and that if you peeled back enough layers to have that understanding, then you would get to a point where you would go, oh, okay, I don't like it, but I understand it. And I'm not sure if they will ever peel back enough layers for the public in a way that we would all feel that. But it's like I have to believe that's the case, right?
Right. Mhm. Mhm.
And so I'm just holding on to that. Um, it was definitely a different experience for me because obviously we helped make the announcements, so we had the information, and immediately was like, the community is not going to be happy
Right.
when they
Yep.
hear this. They are not. But like you said, like you both said, there is some amazing things coming with how it's expanding globally in other regions, all of the different Asia regions in South America and all of that. And that is wonderful. I think the hardest thing is when you have intentional or not, there was an expectation set of 6 DLCs leading up to Continentals and then Worlds, and that everyone, again, intentionally or not, just had that in their mind of getting the same amount of deals, the same amount of events or more, because the game is growing, right? And so why wouldn't there be the same of what we experienced before or more? And so I think that even for me was like the thing that I was kind of taken aback by was, why are we not why was what happened in season 1 not the baseline? I don't know.
Right. Right.
So I am also, I think the other biggest thing for me, and I think, Scott, you would agree, being on the western side of the country, seeing the 3 events being all kind of actually really close to each other. There's not a single one west of the Mississippi, I don't think.
Nope.
And if there was one, if there was one on the West Coast or in Arizona or in Colorado or somewhere that was a little bit easier to access for people in the western half of the United States, that would make me feel a whole lot better. I would still be really sad that there were only 3, but it takes a long time to travel from one side of the country to another. And so for just like accessibility, it's like, so let's say somebody can afford the plane ticket, which can be expensive.
Mhm.
It's not just that, it's a whole entire day of travel there and then back. Do you have enough time off? You know, it just really makes it seem like it's a truly a luxury for people to be able to attend these events. Whereas if you had one that was in, you know, driving distance or just a 2 or 3 hour flight away instead of 6 or 8 hour flight. So I think that's one of the things that I was bummed about was that just geographically speaking, they were not as spread out as I would have liked to have seen. Obviously, there's nothing we can do to change what they've done. Who knows if they have the ability to add more events at this point? I know convention centers and event spaces fill up and are booked far in advance. And if anything, the other piece of hope that I have is just, you know, they have Cooper, who is the senior tournament organizer. I talked with him over the weekend. Well, I spent a lot of time with him over the weekend, but I was like, so you've been here like 6 months now, right? And he's like, 3.
Cool.
I was like, wow, what a way to celebrate 90 days and
Right.
you're putting on a world championship event, right? So like he is still so new to the team. And I just have to think that he in particular comes with so much experience in events and everything. And so growing their team, that they are really setting up the stage like a solid foundation. And I don't know. Yeah, it's disappointing, I think, for everyone. But I hope those events are amazing.
Yeah. So
they better be amazing.
right. And so I'll start kind of with the benefit of the doubt portion, right? As a whole, Ravensburger's not stupid. Collectively, they have some very talented people there. They've already pulled off what, in my opinion, was a very successful entry into organized play. Clearly, there were some bumps along the road, capacity being a big issue. But as a whole, I thought they did well. I thought they kept getting better as time went on. I thought Continentals was a fabulous experience. Again, for their first time, still room for improvement, but overall, like I very much enjoyed the time I had there. I got out of what I was hoping to. So you're looking to build on that. And from a global perspective, from an overall marketing perspective, they have wildly expanded from 10 total DLCs to I think it's 18 is the total now. Across what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 continents, I think. So incredible explosive growth. That's difficult for any company to manage, even if they're a publicly traded company. Like that's difficult. So the fact that they're doing that in their second year is remarkable. Sure as I live and breathe, organized play has a budget. They had to be given a directive saying, this is how we want things to go. This is where we want support going. To me, when I look at this, it screams overarching business decision that they really want to capitalize on some of these newer markets, and especially the Asian market with 9 DLCs going off in Asia, which great for them. Love that for them. China having a good number especially makes sense if you know anything about kind of how their competitions run, what their limitations are, just their sheer population numbers. Like, sure, like I get that they're going to need some bigger numbers there, but just as a whole, getting 9, to me, that says the company says we want to specifically make sure that we are supporting them. I don't have a problem with company making business decisions that they believe are in their best interest. Um, I truly don't. And if that's what they think is good for their business in maximizing sales and profits, I can't tell them they're wrong. And ultimately, Lorcana doing well overall benefits us all. A rising tide floats all boats. So I'm okay with it from that perspective. But what really just gobsmacks me is that in order to do that, they didn't dedicate enough budget to at least have the major regions of the country covered. Now, I agree that the association with pastimes certainly influenced the locations of the DLCs. I believe budget was a factor in a number of DLCs. Now, I also agree, or I hope that these are all more than double the previous capacity. With the 12 round day one structure they have, that would support just under 4,100 participants in the tournament. And then you've got attendee badges on top of that. Let's say they do 2,000 of those. So if we're talking 6,000 badges each, that's 18,000 across 3 events. I believe that would be more total badges than were given out last year across 6 events. From a total badge perspective, that sounds nice-ish, I guess. But when you really start to break it down, I think the math starts to falter a little bit. Let's say last year you get 6 DLCs. For whatever reason, you can't make one of them because of previous obligations. That leaves you with 5. Well, now with this current season, you've got 3 to choose from. If you can't make a date, that leaves you with 2. So now you're down to 40% of the availability that you as a person could actually get to. Forget capacity, just total opportunities. Then you actually have to get through the storm of people to successfully acquire a badge. And we have no idea how that's going to work.
Yeah.
It hasn't been a smooth process before. There's definitely been consternation. I expect that to continue to be the case. I don't know if they're going to go through Eventbrite or somebody else. But regardless of who they choose, I don't think there's going to be a smooth sailing forward on when it comes to acquiring tickets. So again, you're no matter how many people they can get in, it's actual dates. Can I happen to get through the queue for one of those 2 dates if I've already got something planned for the 3rd? And this isn't me. This is really the royal me, or the royal we. The fact that they didn't have something in the South or the West. I get the pastimes may have connections with those venues and those locales, but are you kidding me? I mean, I just no Texas, no Atlanta, no Florida, no Washington, no California, no Arizona. It's stunning the large areas of population that didn't get served. And Rebekah, you were talking about the luxury of flying. Take out the cost of it. What about people that just for whatever reason can't physically fly? What if they have to drive?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, it's a huge ask to get somebody from the Western states into one of those events by road. Chances are it's not going to happen. There, I'm sure there's going to be a couple that happen, but most will choose not to. Now, I'm hoping that we see nationals at Disneyland again, so at least there's a celebration that the West Coast can get to.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be nice. The other thing that I don't know that I've seen a lot of people talk about this yet, that will be interesting to see is they talked on stream about how Ravensburger is starting to support more third-party events.
Mhm.
And when they posted the thing on the website, it does have some that are mostly in Europe, a few that are actually on the West Coast. But I'm really curious to see, with the absence of a full, what I would call a full Disney Lorcana Challenge season in North America, will we see more third party events getting support? It was Greg or Cooper, I think, that said that they are getting prize support at Geek Fest.
Yes.
Is the first one that's coming up. So not that that replaces a Disney Lorcana Challenge official event by any means, but without having more challenge events, you have a huge gap between store set champs and DLCs, and then nothing else. And so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what events do get some support from Ravensburger, like they were talking about.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some things they can do, at least from a competitive standpoint, to support third-party events. I know Ryan tossed out an idea about what about having some of these third-party promotions run tournaments where the winners or X amount of top participants get national championship qualifiers. I think that's potentially something that has legs if that's a route they want to go. You talked about the price support and mats and things like that coming out to some of these conventions. We're going to have the mats at Gen Con. You've got the one you had mentioned previously in the States. So having price support and that kind of Ravensburger support for competitive play is great, but for the community aspect, it's not the same as the DLC, and that's really where I grieve the loss of the events. For me personally, it's the community. So even if us three were to pool all of our resources together, every free dime that we had, every free hour that we had, we couldn't pull off something like a DLC on the scope and scale that Ravensburger and Disney can.
Sure.
And we need that for those larger opportunities. We need their involvement. And when they choose to not invest a portion of their budget that is sufficient to host 6 large scale events out here, I'm legitimately left wondering, well, what's my response to that supposed to be? I believe that the employees care that everybody's having a good time and they're able to engage with the game in the way they want to. I do genuinely believe that. But from a business perspective, I'm struggling with if the business says it's not worth investing enough money and time and resources to pull off the same type of large scale events and the same volume of events that we had before. I need to work through, okay, how do what do I do with that? What's my response going to be? And I'm just not sure. I don't know.
The Lorecast, I think tomorrow is one that a lot of people are going to be tuning into to see what they what they can share with the community, because
For sure.
I think there's definitely, and I totally understand them not, obviously the world's broadcast was not the place to have all of those explanations, I guess. There's only so much that you can say with announcements like that, and they've been really good so far with the Lorecast of having a more open dialogue back and forth with people in the chat and responding to things as they are able and all of that, and really listening to the community. So I hope that the Lorecast tomorrow sheds some light on all of these things.
Even the decision to give the details that they did during the finals or during day 2, at all, really during the weekend at all, is a curious one, given that, I mean, you identified, you said as casters immediately, this is not going to go over well with the community. So if you could see that just on a cursory review of the information, surely they had to know that there was going to be some angst and some frustration out there. And if you know that, I do question taking attention away from the joy of worlds just to inject angst and frustration into it instead. That's an odd decision. I figured if that was going to be the case, maybe they would wait to give all the information of the Lorecast, but they chose not to. So here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take the side of, again, the complexity of communication, right? Like you got a desire to maintain trust that
Yep.
you're attempting to rebuild, and you committed to sharing information, which, maybe that information and the confirmation of things, the sequencing of those things, right, may not have been where you wanted it to be. So, I mean,
Sure.
I will give a benefit of the doubt. It is not easy to sequence those things, and maybe, again, we do not know all the decisions and information,
Yeah.
right, that's transpired from when they made that commitment to where we are now, right?
Yeah.
So
I can't remember. Did they say we were going to get that information at Worlds?
oh yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
For
many
whatever reason, that's
people
the memory.
tuned into the stream because I mean, obviously it's Worlds, right? But I think that was a highly anticipated moment. I mean, I told my wife, right, like, we're gonna get this information. um, so I think there was a commitment there, and it's like if they had not honored that commitment because of the right again the balancing of the, hey, this information is going to be great, do we still share it? Okay, we said we're committed to sharing information, let's share it, and we're going to have to follow it up, right? I mean, I don't know, I mean, this is again,
Mhm.
yeah, let again, Greg, we love you, like, we, thank you for the role that you're playing. It's filling a gap.
Sure.
And these are again, I think, Scott, to your point, there's a level of complexity of decision making that we'll never get, but I
Yep.
think perhaps we offer up some humble suggestions on again, balancing the logic, right, with the authenticity and the empathy.
Yeah. So if they had committed, and that's something that I clearly had forgot, if they've committed that or to give that information, yeah, you're right. They had to give something in that case, even if it wasn't going to be welcome news. Yep. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Any
Got-
final
I-
thoughts on the announcements?
my final thought, which is not on the announcements, but Cole said something in the comments in the chat, is, gosh, Worlds better be a huge, big celebration with the entire community next year.
Flash agree.
Yeah.
Yes. That was when you look at the celebration that national or continentals was, um, to me, that felt closer to what DLCs in general should be. Certainly, nationals or continentals aspires to that. World's even bigger. Yep. And I think there's even more that they could do with enough time planning and whatnot. Yeah, I fully agree that that festive type of atmosphere, a community celebration. I don't care if you're watching the stuff, if you're playing side events, if you're really just there more for the Disney vibes and meeting friends, if you want to get pictures with the at the Illuminary, or with some of the ink casters and that kind of stuff, if you're there to get autographs, if you're there to meet cast members and get Mickey's autograph and all that kind of stuff, there's something for everybody there. It was just such a joy, and I really hope they just knock both nationals and the world championships out of the park, and make it this huge festival that we can all come together and wrap our arms around, and enjoy one another's company and enjoy the game that we love.
Cheers to that.
Daniel, last thoughts before we part?
Man, it was so good to see you and meet you in person. In real life.
Yes.
That was some good times. I will say to any any tournament organizers, LGSs, groups that are planning things and looking to invite a Disney Lorcana artist, Brian Weiss is a national treasure. That guy is truly incredible. He's amazing, just talented, but also a really incredibly kind and giving human being. And so I think I posted on socials early today. There was just this wonderful moment that Lily and him were just he let Lily sit next to him while he was working on her card, and she just got inspired and started drawing, and that was just a really cool moment for me. So again, please, if you are an LGS hosting event, whether it's Charlie's, who does amazing stuff, right, or SSG, take care of the artists, right? Cover their flights, cover their lodging, and bring the community and celebrate with them. So that's my last takeaway.
And on that note, if you care at all about artist alters, artist autographs, original works for the Disney Lorcana artists, anything that they do, if that is of interest to you, I highly encourage you to go get it now. Get it at your first opportunity. These folks are outrageously talented, and the demand for their work is not going to go down. Okay. So get in while the getting's good. Go to autograph signings, go get their altars, go buy some of their prints. It's tough for sometimes for Disney Lorcana artists to really capitalize on the work they've done for the game. So we definitely encourage you, if that's your thing, go do it. I fully agree. Brian's incredible. We had Heidi on a previous stream. We had the card reveal. She's awesome. I was telling Abby, I haven't met a single Disney Lorcana artist that hasn't just been a delight to be around. In this case, it was just, we got a little extended time with Brian. So yeah, he was great. Look forward to seeing him down the road. Rebekah, anything else from you?
No, it was great to chat with you guys and talk about worlds and everything. And thanks to everyone who tuned into the broadcast. I hope that the team did the community proud. We had a lot of fun, and whatever season 2 looks like, I'm looking forward to it. And, hopefully getting to spend some more time with all the wonderful folks in this community. And goodness, the 3 of us need to be in the same room at the same time at some point.
One day. It just occurred. Damn it, I'm kicking myself in the heels for this. I can't believe that. Judges. We didn't even mention the judges.
Oh, yes. Judges. The judges were fantastic.
Gonna have to talk about them more on another stream. We don't have enough time.
Yes. Yeah.
Googly, Phil, Taryn, others. I know you were there. Thank you. Truly. It seemed smooth. I heard nothing but good reports. We'll go into more detail later. We need to wrap this up, I think. Where is my plug here? Here we go. Let's try this. Hey, I think we've got music again.
Maybe. Thanks, everyone,
Scott's doing
for
that.
Joining us.
Thanks for joining us. Zach, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining.
All right. On behalf of Mo Shamblin, our guest tonight, Rebekah up to the north, and Daniel out to the east, I am Cypher 1000. Thank you for joining us for the show tonight. And as always, remember, Lorcana means family. Good evening, folks.
Good night.
Night.